Hi there, this is Brent Hearis, productivity coach, and what I do is I guide people into sustainable high-level productivity. So today I'd like to talk to you about your convictions. So the main reason behind productivity, the thing that productivity is aimed at, is self-actualization. Whenever I talk about productivity, the idea is to get into this place where we're always taking substantial movement in the right direction towards that which is our highest priority, because when we're doing that and we're sustainably in that mode, in that groove, then we are moving into self-actualization. Self-actualization is the fullest expression of ourselves. So on one hand, self-actualization involves moving into success, getting wealth, getting promotions, fame, likes, subscribes, getting people to love you, all this stuff that's involved in being successful in whatever way it's significant to you. But there's this other part of it, which is us giving the gifts that we have to offer and really coming into our highest level of maturity and whether it's art, whether it's engineering, whether it's science, whether it's philosophy, whether it's music, whether it's a mixture of all these things, like giving our greatest and most mature gifts to the world for its benefit as well, and finding fulfillment in that. And so that's self-actualization, this sense of becoming increasingly individuated, increasingly defined as a person, and yet giving yourself so completely to the world that you get lost in it as well. And there's sort of a paradox there of losing your sense of identity, losing your sense of self, and yet at the same time coming home to yourself and becoming aware of yourself more and more. And so that's kind of a paradox that we work with on the road towards self-actualization. Now, to that end, there is a huge, huge obstacle that we face when we move towards self-actualization, and that's our convictions. Convictions are a funny thing, beliefs, thought structures, because when we have them, they are what we use to see the world and to define the world and to allow the world to make sense to us so that we can kind of work within it and manipulate it, not in a negative way, but to kind of use it in a way that makes sense for us. But all belief systems and all convictions, they have an expiry date. They have a limit to them in terms of how useful they are. And even if they were really empowering and really useful to begin with, eventually we grow so much that we outgrow them. It's like a tool that's just no longer useful for the particular work that we're doing. And so in order to continue moving along our journey towards self-actualization, it becomes important to recognize when convictions hold us back, so that we can see them and say, oh, I see, this is what I'm operating from. I don't need to operate from this anymore. I can let this go and look for some newer, more highly evolved convictions that will allow me to move further along my journey. There's some sort of Zen parable about using a raft to cross the river, but no longer needing the raft to come with you as you move across this other section of land. So that is what this video is aimed at. And so the name of this video is Ask, What Are My Convictions? What am I convinced of? This is an important question, and you can use it as a tool, because when you ask, what am I convinced of, there's a sort of pattern interrupt that happens where a conviction that up until now we were like looking from, we were operating from, we're able to take it off and look at it, and that allows us to disidentify from it. So that's the crux of what I'm going to get into, and I'm going to make sense of all of this. I'm going to take you through it. I'm going to take you through the theory of it. I'm going to teach you how to use it as a tool in your own life. I'm going to give you some examples to work with as well. So by the end of this whole thing, you should know exactly what I'm talking about, and you'll know exactly how to use this, and you'll see in your own life. It's such a powerful principle to operate from, and you can just aim it at so many things, and it's so versatile. And it will really give you that extra velocity along your self-actualization. It'll lubricate things. It'll allow you to just move much more steadily with more momentum in the direction that's most appropriate for you. So that is the overview. Now, so I have some notes here that you'll see me referencing. I just want to make sure I touch on everything. So, okay, now the thing about self-actualization that's important to note as we go into this is that on one hand, it's something that we do, that we move towards deliberately. And at the same time, it's something that we're not really masterminding. It's a process that it is doing to us that we need to submit to on some level. So an example would be a caterpillar that is going into a cocoon, and you could ask this caterpillar, like, what are you doing? And the caterpillar would probably say, if it could speak, it would say, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what's happening in this cocoon. I just know that I'm doing it. There's just a compulsion, a sense of appropriateness. This is just what I'm doing. And there's a sense of trust, in the sense that a caterpillar wouldn't, if a caterpillar had a human mind, it would start freaking out. Oh my God, what's going on? What if I mess this up? What if I'm doing the wrong thing? And it might sort of hold back on the cocoon process if it had a human mind, but it doesn't. It hasn't learned yet how to not trust the universe. And so it trusts, and then it moves through what it's moving through and becomes a butterfly. Another example would be just the process of human growth, where a human comes into the world as a baby, as an infant, it becomes an adolescent, it becomes a teenager, it becomes an adult. And this is something that a child knows how to do, in the sense that they can feed themselves, and their body knows how to call for, say, milk or protein or fats or carbohydrates, whatever it needs to take in to grow, but it doesn't know exactly what it's doing. The process itself is being mastermind. It's almost like there's some sort of intelligence that stands on the other end and goads and coaxes and pulls the person through to its realization, to the realization of itself. And I know that sounds weird, but I think it also kind of makes sense that when you think about your own self-actualization, and what all that really needs to mean is just this vision of what it would look like if I were really rocking and rolling, if I really had all the self-discipline that I needed, all the focus, all the willpower, and if I was really doing everything that I needed to do and playing at this higher level, getting more done, getting more of the important stuff done. What would that lead to? There's a vision of that there that you can see, that you can move towards, and yet at the same time, that vision itself is midwifing you towards it. It's constantly pulling you toward it in the form of this longing and this yearning and this frustration that you sometimes experience when you're moving toward it, or you hit a few hiccups on the road and you're not able to. So it's something to keep in mind, that on one hand, we know what we're doing, and on the other hand, we don't know what we're doing, and we're kind of moving in the dark. And the reason why this is important is because when we pass through any one of these stages of growth, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm here, I've grown, I'm evolved, I'm at this new stage, wow, I'm smarter, I'm more intelligent, I see what's going on. We form new convictions, and these convictions come as a result of that, and we can make sense of what happened, and we can help others go through this process, of a similar process. But we don't have convictions for the direction that we're going in, and these convictions just are no longer useful for us. And so what's going to be required is to soften these convictions. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing too is that convictions are something that we cling to. And this is a really funny experience from the perspective of myself as a coach, and many coaches that I talk to, or healers, teachers, like these kinds of people that midwife people into their higher level of experience. Because when we have our convictions, we hold on to them, we guard them, we fight for them. You can poke at them and it's almost like it pokes back. It's like, no, this is true. And what makes it even trickier is that convictions themselves, they make themselves true. Because it doesn't matter if something is objectively true per se. If we believe it, then we will accumulate evidence. We will amass a data bank of evidence to support our belief, and we can convince ourselves that it is true, even if it's not necessarily true outside of that data bank of evidence that we've created. So when you question somebody's convictions, or when we question our own convictions, it's pretty serious business. It causes a reaction. There's a sense of like, no, you're wrong, or like, people either react, they'll kind of bark back, or they will deflect, or they'll go into distraction and talk about something else, or they'll feel uncomfortable, or they'll withdraw, or whatever. And so that's just part and parcel of questioning our own convictions. And I want to lay all this down because what we're going to do in a minute is actually question some of your convictions so you can see this for yourself. And I want you to have a little piece of your awareness. If you have a mindfulness practice, employ it here, where observe if there's a temptation in you to deflect or hide or fight or argue or make me wrong or make yourself wrong even, and to pay attention to how convictions have this way of clinging to us and clinging to them. And now there's another piece too that's very important because it goes even deeper than that. Because depending on how core these convictions are, and they can be so core, these can be convictions that we've held within us for so long, for our whole lives. We've learned it from our parents or from our culture, and it's become the furniture of our reality. We can barely even see past it. To question these convictions, especially if we've identified with them, it feels like death sometimes. And you might find this. It feels like approaching death because, for example, if I believe that I don't deserve love and no one loves me, I don't deserve to be loved. I'm such a fuck up. I'm such a mess up. I've disappointed so many people in my life. I'm just a disappointment. I don't deserve to be loved. I don't deserve to be respected. Then what happens is, you'll notice as I say this, I make this clump of ideas into my identity. So I say, this is what I am. I am a mess up. I'm a fuck up. I'm a loser. I have made all these mistakes. Nobody loves me. I'm saying all this is true, and I've made it real by giving my sense of self to it. It's like, this is how it is. Despite how painful these beliefs can be, and like so many of us hold these styles of belief, almost basically above 95% of us do, according to my surveys. When we hold these kinds of ideas, despite how painful it is, at very minimum, it's made our reality knowable and predictable. It's given structure to our reality so that at least, despite how unpleasant it is, we know how to maneuver in it. We know how to live in it. We know how to survive. And so when we start looking at these convictions and questioning whether or not they're real, despite it being good news, to say, oh wait, I do deserve love, or I'm not a mess up, or whatever it is, it can be scary because it feels threatening. The survival mechanism in our bodies, our sympathetic systems, our adrenaline can sometimes wake up and go, oh, and like it'll freak out. So what you may notice, if you start questioning very, very bottom foundational level convictions in yourself, it will feel like death. It will. It will feel like approaching death. And that's something you're going to want to keep in mind. Okay. So safe and predictability. Also, if you're addicted to this idea of rightness and being right, being correct, if it feels scary to be wrong, that can be in play too. Convictions make themselves true, questioning them. Anything that's true survives. So this is something to know as we go forward with this conversation. Anything that's actually true will survive your questioning it. So there's no need to worry. Sometimes people will clear false ideas with clearings. Like say there's a whole modality that's called access consciousness, and they have clearing statements that go good, bad, right, wrong, pock, pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds, and all and you're like, what the hell did he just say? It's like this list of ways that an idea can stick to a mind. It's good, it's bad, it's right, it's wrong, and there's like kind of acronyms in there. And so somebody in access consciousness would say to you, this belief that you have that you don't deserve love, or that you made a mistake with this life choice that you made, everywhere you've decided that you've made a mistake, would you now destroy and uncreate that idea? And then, if you were to say yes, then the practitioner would say, okay, everything that is good, bad, right, wrong, pock, pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And it just kind of creates this sense of taking the conviction from our subjectivity in terms of operating from this subjectivity but not being aware of it, to turning it into an object that we can look at and go, oh, I see, that is what I was convinced of. So if you're interested in that, I go and look at Access Consciousness, because those guys are like bonkers, amazing, amazing, amazing. But anything true survives. So there's no need to be concerned about running the POC and POD sequence or questioning your convictions in something. Because if I were to say, hey, like this belief you have in gravity, can we now destroy and uncreate it? Can we step beyond your belief in gravity? Totally fine, no problem. Because if gravity is true, then it lies deeper than the reality of it. The reality of it lies deeper than my belief. And so yes, so we can destroy and uncreate it, and let's see what remains afterward. So that's a really, really helpful mentality to take, because if you're willing to internalize that, then you can look at all of the furniture in your reality, all of your convictions, every single thing, throw all of it on the bonfire and see what remains afterward. It's very, very good. And this process allows you to learn to trust in who you are underneath your convictions. Because as I was saying earlier, we identify with our convictions. So when we release our convictions, there's a sense of like, okay, well, I don't know who I am. But that's kind of good, because you're not your convictions. You never ever will be a conviction. You never ever will be a thought. Thought, conviction, belief, these are things that just exist within your experience. They're things that move through your experience, but it's you that experiences them. So what is this you that experiences the phenomena that move through your inner atmosphere? What we want to do is we want to be acquainted with that, because that's not an object. It's not a mental object. It's not any object. It's not a label. It's nothing. There's nothing that it actually is. Very, very important to investigate that. The more you disabuse your identity of these things that you think that you are, little objects in your awareness. Oh, am I that? Am I that? Am I that? I must be this. Or maybe it's like not a thought, but a feeling sense. Ah, this is what I am. It's like, no, man, no. Objects. This is what I do. I'm really excited. You're not an object. Very, very powerful thought. So anything that's true survives. Nothing that's true dies. That's true. That's real. That dies when you question it. When you question its validity. When you question its reality. But questioning does break the hypnosis. And so that's what we're going to get into now. Good. Okay. Yeah, that's it. So that's the theory. And so here's how to start applying this tool. You can ask yourself, just as a general base level thing, what is it that I'm convinced of? What am I convinced of? And again, every time you ask that question, you take an idea that has taken over your subjectivity and you turn it into an object, and thus cleaning and purifying your subjectivity. You're able to see with more neutrality, more balance, with an augmented perspective, less and less partisan. Okay, so let's go into some examples. I have some, so these are just common ideas that all of us hold, like culturally. It's something that we just constantly like hear, and we just assume that it's true for ourselves. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna question the validity of all of them. So, first one, I'm lazy, I'm selfish, I'm stupid. I'm lazy, I'm selfish, I'm stupid. Are you convinced that you're lazy? Are you convinced that you're selfish? Are you convinced that you're stupid? You're an idiot. Are you convinced that you're a fuck up? Are you convinced that you're a bum? Or are you convinced that you're a failure? What if that were just a conviction? What if that were just a judgment that you're applying to yourself? It's just a label that you bought along the way from somebody else, and now you believe it. What value do you have in believing this, right? Because I could ask, are you willing to drop this judgment? And you might say yes, which is fantastic. Or you might say no, because, well, I'm afraid if I drop this judgment, then I really will become a bum or a fuck up or an idiot, or, you know, I really will be lazy. So I need to like kind of keep this negative reinforcement. I need to stay vigilant to stop myself from getting into this bad headspace. Is that true though? Is that true? Are you convinced of that? Is that a conviction that you hold? Are you convinced that you need to punish yourself? Are you convinced that you need to abuse yourself in order to light a fire under your ass and move into higher levels of success? Is it working for you? Is it creating good results for you? Number 2, I don't deserve love. I don't deserve respect. So that was the example I was drawing on earlier. Is that something you believe? Do you believe that you deserve all the love in the world as you are right now? Or do you believe that there are conditions that you must meet before you finally deserve to be loved? What about respect? Do you believe that you have not earned respect yet? And there's stuff that you need to do in order to earn respect, conditions to meet. Are you convinced that conditions need to be met? Is that your conviction? Is that something that you believe? Is that your belief? Is it true, or do you just make it true by believing it? Don't resist or react against any of this. The best way to go about these kind of questions is to just kind of sort of like float a little bit of curiosity at it. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe. That's how you do it. We do this really lightly and easily, and that's how you can kind of find the edge under these beliefs so they can start prying them up. I'm wasting my time. This is number 3. I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my effort. Do you believe this? Do you believe you've wasted time today? Have you wasted time over the week? Have you watched too many YouTube videos? Have you played too many games? Have you been on your phone too much? Are you convinced of that? Is that one of your convictions? Is that what you believe? Is it true? Are you sure? Don't answer. Don't get caught up in answering it. Instead, keep your awareness nice and wide and augmented, and just look at what comes up as we ask that question. Look at the indignance. Look at this sense of right and wrong. Look at your commitment to making yourself wrong, and your commitment to being hard on yourself. Your commitment to being angry and bitter about yourself, and how you just seem to keep doing bad things. Is any of that true? Or is it just something that you believe? What's the value of this belief? What do you get out of this belief? I mean, how do you keep yourself safe with this belief? Just feel into that question. Feel into it. This is a huge one. I've done videos like dedicated to this very principle, number 4, of not enough. This is just, it's everywhere in our culture. Everyone I talk to, everyone, and when you look for it, you'll see it everywhere. This basic belief in not enough. I haven't done enough. And by the way, past, present, and future. So it's like, I haven't done enough. I'm not doing enough. I may not do enough. I don't have enough. I have never had enough. I don't have it. I will not have enough. And I am not enough. I am not great enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not intelligent enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not healthy enough. I'm not wealthy enough. Oh, I'm not far enough along in my life. Not enough, not enough, not enough. I'm not doing enough. Not enough, not enough, not enough. It's like, it's like this whole like system of belief that we just buy. We just buy it. We just think it's right. We don't even question it. So are you convinced of not enoughness? Do you believe in not enoughness? Is it true? Really, is it true? Feel into that. And the way to use this technique, one way to really kind of take this up a notch, is to actually say, I'm convinced that I'm not doing enough. Say it out loud. I'm convinced I'm not doing enough. And look, like, pay very close attention. This is so important. Pay very close attention to how when you say it, there's this pattern interrupt. The loop is broken. I'm convinced. It's like a paradox. It's like saying, like, this sentence is false. It's like, okay, well, if it's true, then it's false. But if it's false, then it's true. If you program it into a computer, the computer explodes. I'm convinced that I'm not doing enough. There's a self-consciousness, like the positive kind. Like, there's a consciousness of yourself that flips online as immediately as you say that. That's how you use this tool. I'm convinced I'm not doing enough. And how you'll know it's working is when you say it and you feel into it. The feeling piece is so, so important, because we're no longer putting all of this emphasis on our mind, and we're getting in touch with our intuition, which has a more direct path to truth than our thinking minds. Right? The thinking minds participate in truth, but the intuition, the body, the physicality is so much more close to truth. Right? We consult our body for truth. So how does the body respond when we question our own convictions? Does it feel, we're not looking for something like really intense, but like, does it feel lighter? Does it open up? Is there a sense of relief? Is there a sense of creativity and openness that comes up? That's how you know that we're moving in the right direction. That's how you know that you're growing. This is what self-actualization is like on an atomic level, on a breath by breath level. That's what self-actualization is. I have no self-control. That's number 5. I have no self-control. I'm convinced that I have no self-control. I'm convinced that I have no willpower. I'm convinced that I can't get in control of my life. I'm convinced that it's too hard to put an exercise routine in place. I'm convinced of that. I'm convinced that it's difficult to make money. I'm convinced that it's difficult to become successful. I'm convinced that the world is against me. Number 6. Oh, I've already done this. I'm messing up my life. I'm a fuck up. Yeah. So good. So those are some examples. And so hopefully that will get you started with your own as you think about this. So when you're running into some kind of difficulty and, at work or whatever, or with your family, what am I convinced of? What are my convictions? Float out that question, see what comes up. Ask yourself if you're really convinced. And then notice the pattern interrupt. Notice the lightness as your convictions come up. And just continue to question them. You don't have to get rid of them. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to work at this. Be careful not to turn any of this into oh, how do I do this? Kind of like this hardcore sort of self-abuse kind of thing. This practice doesn't work that way. It stops being effective when we come at it with that energy. It's more like, what am I convinced of? Am I really convinced of this? What are my convictions? And then maybe I'm ready now to step beyond these convictions. I'm ready to put them down. I'm ready to step beyond them. And that will really get things going. That's it. That's it. Hope this was helpful for you. Would you please be so kind as to hit the like button for me? Consider subscribing. If you believe that this kind of content is the type of content that should be on YouTube and that people should have access to, then that would help this content get to those people. It'll help me out as well. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you. Check out my website. Some free trainings on there if you opt into my email list. My podcast with David Whitechapel, the Skyward Spiral. First season is all done. We get into some amazing deep territory as we bounce some of these ideas around together. And that is all.